Hello, everyone at home. We're about to start. Ajahn is here, Jonathan, Betty, Kuntu, Kunwarasat, Meta, Anne, Hung, myself, and sorry, I've forgotten you. Metawi, yes. And Kunjit just coming as well, yes. So does anyone have anything they would like to start with? And do you have anything you'd like to?
I found our discussion. Yeah. I found our discussion at lunch today very interesting, and wondering if we can pick up on that again. I'm not even going to be able to explain it very well. We were talking about things that appear, things that arise, and what appearing, a number of meanings of appearing. Sarah or Ajahn, can you comment on that, please?
I think this is because often Ajahn may say to someone, ask someone, what appears now? What does seeing see? Does that visible object actually appear? So there's can be a little bit of misunderstanding. So at the moment of seeing, only visible object is experienced, only visible object appears to seeing, but it's not known. So usually after the visible object has fallen away, there's ignorance of it. So if it appears, it is to ignorance. And only when there is understanding does it appear as it is. Only then is it known as it is. So this is different from the meaning of arising and falling away, because no matter whether any reality appears or not, when it's conditioned to arise, it arises and it falls away instantly. So the visible object arises, it's experienced by seeing, it falls away after the following cheetahs have experienced it, when it has lasted for 17 times as long as cheetah, and then it's gone. So it's a different meaning. Anything else anyone would like to add?
I'm still interested in Mickey Mouse. Yes, please, Kun Anne. What about your understanding?
What about Mickey Mouse?
Mhm.
Okay. We should all have a picture.
Can
Mickey-
we talk about Mickey Mouse? See? See? We can talk about anything. So
right.
what about Mickey Mouse?
Okay, so Mickey Mouse is just like any one of us, not real. Seeing sees, visible experiences visible object. And unless there is a high level of understanding, there is ignorance, so it appears to ignorance. And from that, as we know, well, not from ignorance, but the visible object appears ever so briefly. And what can be known, but isn't usually, is the nimitta of visible object, or seeing for that matter. And then the stories begin to build. So we see people and things. So just for fun, we see Mickey Mouse, which is, and then the story begins to build further because we can laugh. And
Kun Hang, you like Mickey Mouse?
Yes, I like the story about
About what we are talking about, the way, how come to be Mickey Mouse?
of course also, yes.
What you learned from that? About
Yes.
Mickey Mouse. Does anyone learn about that?
The asava, I mean that kilesa is already there after see the visible object.
So could do, you know, Mickey Mouse?
Of course,
Oh, yes.
of course. I've heard of Mickey Mouse. I've seen Mickey Mouse, but that was before listening to Dhamma. And Mickey Mouse, I was interested in what Anne has said earlier, that Mickey Mouse is like one of us, is like us. After hearing that sentence, I was thinking, how come Mickey Mouse is like us? In what regards? Because Mickey Mouse is not real, right? And Mickey Mouse
Really?
Mickey Mouse is not real.
What is real? Kuntu is real.
No,
See, as Mickey Mouse.
but Mickey Mouse has no life. Because Mickey Mouse
Just he moves on the screen.
it's just visible object.
But at that moment, you look at Mickey Mouse, you laugh, and it's so funny.
Yes,
Is it there, Mickey Mouse?
of course it's there.
So now,
There's no Mickey Mouse now.
not Mickey Mouse, but what? Something as like as Mickey Mouse, but not Mickey Mouse, right?
Right. It's just in the thinking. It's just
Now.
now.
We think about Mickey Mouse at moment of looking at the newspaper or something like that about it. But if it's not newspaper, it just now like newspaper, and we are there like Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and other mouses.
So it's just concept.
But you see that how ignorance about Mickey Mouse, about people and things, the same or different.
Yeah, I just, after listening to Thanajan, I just getting there that it's just ignorance, and we cling on something that it appears.
No matter Mickey Mouse or anything
Yeah.
appearing. So instead of Mickey Mouse in the newspaper, it's now like that.
It's very deep.
Even not on the screen, like movies and so on, but it's that same, the same, but the idea from that. Just like now, without name, if you don't name Mickey Mouse, if we don't name Sarah, see,
Yes.
Mickey Mouse and Sarah.
Just
Just the
concept.
object of
Just-
thinking.
yes, just the object of thinking.
That's right. Yeah.
If you said the word for Mickey Mouse in Thai, it would mean nothing to me. So no thinking about it, no story. It would just be sound, but no idea or no conjuring up a picture of someone with big ears or this character. But because of having heard the sound, because of the memory, there's immediately the thinking of this long story about Mickey Mouse existing. And it's the same if you'd never heard of Mom Betty and someone mentioned Mom Betty, no long story. But when one has met Mom Betty and there's been lots of memory and thinking, then straight away there's a picture, an image, an idea,
Yes.
the lasting being, and so on.
Because that visible object or the object of experience has been experienced and memorized before. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any idea of what it is.
We think about story. But
Yes.
now, no Mickey Mouse.
No.
At the moment of looking at Mickey Mouse, one smiles. So now we smile. See, like we read or have the look of Mickey Mouse on the paper.
And Thanajan, is it that because of the ignorance and as
Certainly. But compare Mickey Mouse and
to now?
me, Akun Sarah, Akun Han. At moment of looking at Mickey Mouse, we laugh. And now we Smile to what?
I think that's the idea of Mickey Mouse.
No,
Yes.
just
No.
now. I smile when I see Kun Anne. The same as I smile when I see Mickey Mouse. What is the difference?
The difference is that we know that Mickey Mouse is not.
No, at that moment, no thought. Just read the newspaper and Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Lulu and Tappy are there. Like now, not Lulu and Tappy, not Mickey Mouse, but what is there? It's seen exactly the same. Conditioned smiling at moment of read. Yeah. So now at moment of looking, no thought about anyone.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse or what, but it can condition smiling. Like when look at Mickey Mouse, we smile
Yes.
and laugh. Just write it now.
But different mind state altogether.
Something conditioned, pleasant feeling.
Well, memory in the case of Mickey Mouse. memory.
Loba, usually instant
But,
Loba
if
coming.
If one is with other people, then it may be consideration or.
You have to
general
think like that when
courtesy.
you smile at moment of looking at Mickey Mouse.
You don't have to think. The memory.
But they're
memory
conditioned for
performs its
smiling
Memory
already.
performs its function, so you remember. the
Yeah,
things.
that is moment of thinking about this and that. But at moment of looking at Mickey Mouse, you smile. And now I'm looking at Kun Anne and I smile.
Yeah, but different kind of mental state.
Mickey Mouse and what is the difference?
The difference is
Conditioned
that
smiling.
the only memory we have of Mickey Mouse is funny stories. Whereas Anne is
so
not
you
just
think
a
that,
funny story.
Mickey-
Anne is a person, so it's
that is the further idea, but not at moment of smiling.
Same.
the same
When Tana
and there's visible
Yes.
object, right?
yes.
And then smile. And this is visible object and smile.
Yes, they're
When
both visible objects, agreed.
But not the idea that it's not anyone and Kun Anne is someone, so on. No idea yet.
When Tana John said Lulu and Tapi and this, I don't even know what it is, but these are humorous sounding names and I find it's smiling. It's no different. And Lulu,
But
Tapi,
there
Mickey Mouse.
must be the story out of that object which is seen as something. When you look at Mickey Mouse, no matter in the newspaper or whatever, and you look at Kun Anne, the same visible object is seen, but different story by different shape and form. But at that moment, no idea whether this is living and that is no living
Right.
being.
Yes, that's it in the moment. So regardless of the story.
Just at that very moment,
Yes. That's what
to
I was
understand
saying.
madness.
Excuse me, to understand what? Can you?
Madness.
Madness. Or
The other day about how I mentioned how the texts refer to all worldlings as madness, because when there is no, while there is still the idea of someone, something,
yes.
while it hasn't been eradicated
Mhm.
before becoming a sotapanna, it's like madness, taking Mickey
Vipallasa.
Mouse for being existing, taking this for being something, this for someone. It's actually the madness
So it's
of wrong
Vipallasa.
understanding.
At moment of
Titi
thinking
Vipallasa.
about
As-
Vipallasa, is there any understanding
mm,
of what we heard about it without the name Vipallasa?
no,
See,
because Chitta was thinking of the word Vipallasa. But I understand what Kunsara just said, that
but you
it's-
cling to the word or to the understanding what it's meant. Madness, no matter
what she
use
explained,
Pali term or not.
what she explained conditioned me to think of that word.
and understanding the meaning.
Yes.
Okay. What about a moment of thinking of the word vipallasa? Is there any meaning, understanding?
There's an understanding of the meaning of the vipallasa, because
At
I've
that
heard
moment,
uh,
vipallasa,
it's just a sound. But
That-
because of,
that's why when we talk about nama, we
yes,
think of nama, but not the reality of nama at that very moment.
right,
Just clinging to the word
yes,
all the time, nama, nama, and rupa. But what about one characteristic of nama and rupa is there to be known or thought about?
mm,
Another kind of understanding what is meant by madness.
very deep, very,
The
very
word
deep.
of the Buddha.
Yes. But all these words that we talk about, it's just conditioned with understanding, of course, not just words, but to understand the meaning of those words that we've been talking every
No
day,
matter what word is used in different
languages, or but it's just conditioned to getting closer to the reality, the characteristic of the reality.
at that moment, no word.
No.
Not just, oh, it's nama now. Oh, it's rupa now.
But people who study tend to be like that, Captain Ajahn.
Ignorance,
Yes.
no one.
They tend to, I mean, because of the ignorance, of course, but tend to cling on to words.
Without ignorance, with ignorance.
With ignorance, of course. Because at that time, cling on is like lopa. Right now I'm thinking of the word again. But there's the characteristic of lopa that cling on, or because of the memory and the nature of memory, but it's a misunderstanding because you think that you know the word and therefore make you understand the Dhamma, but it's not.
Like we discussed yesterday, I think a point of Hung's, people have the idea of catching the term, following the definition, checking the meaning, and then thinking they will understand the reality. But it actually has to be the other way around. By understanding the reality now, understanding the what is meant by the madness at this moment, then when we read about Diti Vipallasa in the book or whatever, we know what is meant, but there has to be the understanding of the reality appearing now first before understanding the meaning. So if we just say to a newcomer, oh, this is Nama, which is experiencing the object, it's meaningless. There has to be the understanding of the characteristic of seeing and the characteristic of the memory that arises with it, marking the object before they can appreciate when they read about Nama or Sanya or whatever, what is the meaning. So it's just a subtle difference in the approach. Otherwise, we can hear and then quickly point, oh, that's Diti, that's this, that's Sanya Vipallasa, instead of just understanding the reality being discussed or appearing at this moment.
Yeah, yes, I totally agree with Kunsara, because ignorance is trying to put words in the box. Oh, this is akusala, oh, this is kusala. But that at that moment, we just miss the opportunity to little by little understand the characteristic of that reality that arises at that time. But without the words of Buddha, no way. But then people tend to cling on the words of the Buddha. And as I said earlier, like And sometimes if you go into like wrong view, a very strong wrong view, you think that you understand or you have attained satipatthana or something like that already, which is not that thing. I know that it's not happening because there's no pariyatti. And if you don't have like the true understanding of all the words of the Buddha, which condition to understand what it is now, there is no reason or condition to make to condition satipatthana to arise, not at all.
You're forgetting the idea of suppose you read such a whatever word it is like vipallasa in the Tipitaka, you listen to the discussion and the word is brought up. So it requires, I don't know when to use the word requires, but there should be a condition for having in-depth thought about that word. Okay, because that's the second part of it. It's not just knowing the word or knowing its definition, but being able to think, consider it, ponder it, think deeply about it. That would be a condition for a deeper understanding of what the word actually implies and what it means and the characteristics of the reality, the functions of the reality, and so on.
No.
So now, what is vipallasa?
Vipallasa is the wrong understanding, wrong view, like miss what it is to experience what it is as reality.
Where is now? Where is it now?
At object of experience, which is not if you not experience it as it is, if the citta doesn't experience it as it is with
Yes.
the right understanding,
Is now sanya vipallasa?
definitely, of course,
See,
because still Thanajan.
if we just talk about on and on, what about sanya vipallasa right now?
What about now when there's just ignorance, no thought about Tanajan, or just not understanding what is true now? Is there any sanya vipallasa?
No, sanya vipallasa, as far as I understand, it's about you wrong it from some reality, like this thing is rise and falls away, but it's there, it's still there, doesn't rise, doesn't fall away.
That is ditthi vipallasa,
Mhm.
which the sanya accompanies.
Yeah.
But sanya vipallasa, whenever it is unwholesome sanya, moment of ignorance, moment of attachment, a moment of aversion.
Yeah.
So any moment of not understanding, any moment of subtle clinging, like hearing the sound Mickey Mouse and smiling instantly, even before any idea of something there. Sanya vipallasa, citta vipallasa. So almost all the day. For whom is there no more sanya vipallasa?
To whom?
Yeah. Does Sotapanna have sanya vipallasa?
Sotapanna doesn't have the ditthi vipallasa.
So no sanya vipallasa
That
with
arises
ditthi
with ditthi vipallasa.
vipallasa, but still sanya vipallasa. What about an anagami? Anagami, no clinging to sense objects, no wrong understanding. Any sanya vipallasa?
Still with the self, like not self, bhava.
Still with any clinging or
Clinging to the-
ignorance, with the subtle clinging,
Yeah.
subtle mana. So
Subtle.
because mana hasn't been eradicated, so at those moments still Chitta and Sanya Vipalasa.
Yeah.
So it can be so very, very subtle, not necessarily with any wrong understanding of any Ditti Vipalasa.
So every moment that akusala arises, it arises with sanya vipalasa.
When Ditti has been eradicated, no more taking what is anatta for atta, no more taking what is anicca for nicca, but still what is dukkha is still seen as sukha.
Yeah.
Smiling at a happy sound or the happy face, and what is asubha, what is still taken for subha.
Mhm.
Into
Yeah.
the beautiful
Because Sotapanna just eradicates.
understanding.
Yeah.
Even we talk a lot about Sanya Vipalasa, it's any way to have less Sanya Vipalasa. Otherwise, it's just the story of Sanya Vipalasa and other Vipalasa. But to understand, even right now, what moment is what. It's not trying to find out, but understand the nature of that which appears as not self because it experiences the object, or it cannot experience the object and then gone. Not trying to dig it up, to search or to find out what it is. But now, what is there which is different is that which arises and experiences the object, and that which cannot experience the object. It seems like no doubt about the characteristic of rupa, or that which does not experience the object, and nama, but in truth, it's not the direct understanding of anyone yet, as long as it is just intellectual understanding.
At this moment, there's not yet, not
But
like
we
that.
learn to understand
Yes.
more and more, to be conditioned for understanding this moment closer, to be direct understanding of what is there in life by conditions.
Because right now, even if you're listening to Dhamma and realities and everything, the story of the realities, but still everything is like mixed together, still something. It's not Dharma yet, because the understanding is not at that level yet. Now the understanding is just some understanding about some stories of Dhamma, but
It seems like it's not difficult. For example, seeing is not self. Seeing is that which sees, and seeing is that which experiences see, but no understanding of seeing as it is yet. Only when it appears, that is the beginning to develop the understanding of the reality which experiences the object.
But Thanachan just said that is, I understand that is like direct understanding.
For
But
example, who do not understand or know what citta is? But is there any moment beginning to attend to the characteristic of citta, which is there any moment, every moment in life?
Chitta never, for me, Chitta never been the object of understanding for Panya.
Until we talk a little more about it,
Yes,
to be conditioned for beginning to think about it,
yes.
until it attend to the characteristic of that which is citta. Is it now?
Now it's just object of experience.
Condition to be moment of beginning to think about it in a day.
it has to be now, but what you're saying is it's not known, it's not understood, but at this moment, nothing can be seen, nothing can be heard, nothing can be thought about without chitta arising, experiencing the object and gone. So it is now,
It is
whether
there.
it's known or not, it's
Yeah,
now,
it's-
it's this very moment.
It's there, it's
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Because without chitta, there is nothing. No,
No life at all.
no.
And it's not just now. What is there now?
Even deeper. Yeah. Chitta,
Just the word,
just a word.
but the truth.
Still Mickey Mouse.
Before that,
Before that, object of experience,
what is that?
color.
Again, forgetting the chitta,
Mm,
no matter what we're talking about.
yeah, because without chitta, I cannot say color.
Chitta is the unknown.
Mm,
No matter it experiences visible object or sound through the five doorways of the six. It's there all the time. So what is there when nothing appears? It is there,
still chitta.
but not enough understanding
No.
to understand the nature of that which experience the unknown object. So no one can say that it is chitta which sees or hears.
Atanajanka, because it's so fast.
That's it. That's it.
Super
Beginning to
fast.
understand the great wisdom of the Buddha.
Yes.
An additional way of understanding that there's the different levels of understanding or the different levels of knowledge. So you have Suttamaya Panya, Jintamaya Panya, and Bhavana Maya Panya. So if we understand those different levels and what is happening at each of those levels, which is parallel to pariyati and so forth. Okay, so so only when John asked who is the person who can actually understand a reality as it really is, the best is obviously either a Buddha or an Arahat.
Yeah.
And no matter how much we talk about citta, it's the condition for thinking about it. Really. in the at moment of eating, seeing, talking.
Very, very hard because ignorance has been accumulated for so long in samsara.
And only Panya can understand that it's so very subtle.
Yeah.
But I also think it's by accumulations, because there can be the habit that develops to consider a lot about
Yes.
chitta in
of
a
course.
day. So it just depends on conditions. And when you said before, oh, it's so fast, Ajahn. Yes, chittas arise and fall away very quickly, but when there's understanding of a reality, no thought about how fast. So it doesn't matter really, because when the characteristic of the reality, the seeing appears, what is seen appears, no thought about how fast, because it's just the characteristic of the reality that appears. And it's like a miracle really that the nature of realities is so very subtle, but there is a path, and the characteristics of those realities can appear,
Of course.
can be known without any thought of how fast at those moments. And when Betty, you said, well, the characteristic only appears to an arahat or a Buddha, but before that, even at moments of satipatthana,
Sorry.
even at moments of satipatthana, the characteristic of the reality itself appears well.
Not a clear.
Not as clear or precise.
So it develops. So only when it's moments of the Vipassana, then it appears clearly, not even talking about a Buddha or an Arahat. So it develops more and more clearly until the different defilements eradicated completely. So
Yeah.
it has to develop. Otherwise, if one thinks the reality can only be known by a Buddha, then what about the point of talking about the development of Satipatthana?
Yeah, because at the moment of Vipassana, it has to come and develop from many moments of Satipatthana without, like in anatta.
Exactly.
And from before Satipatthana, it's come from like firm memory and understanding.
And considering very
Yeah.
carefully
Yeah.
and confidently
Yes.
about what appears. Otherwise, one thinks, oh, well, that's just for arahats. But the understanding begins to develop even now, considering what is citta at this moment, what citta experiences now,
Yes.
what is the nature of citta. So gradually, the characteristic of the reality becomes more apparent as understanding develops. So this is appears and becomes apparent. Yes. Anything more from your first question, Anne? Or
Not at the moment, but Sarah, if you remember something from that conversation that you think it would be worth discussing as a group, please bring it up.
Well, one obvious observation is that there are a lot more realities arising at the present moment than there are appearing.
Yes. Yes.
So
that's
those
a
that appear are
distinction
just
there.
a selection, or
Yes.
we don't want to use the word select, are just maybe a small proportion of
Yes.
the
Yes.
total number that are arising at
Yes.
a given moment or period of time.
That's a good distinction. Thank you.
One thing, all those mental factors that we say will never be known directly, they're all arising.
That's
from
right.
7 universals and others.
Mhm.
And then all the asavas are arising but not appearing by
yes.
definition.
Yes. Yes, thank you. That's that distinction makes it clear.
And only what appears can be directly known.
Yes.
And the other point is, I suppose, that any reality that becomes the object of awareness and understanding is as good as any other reality as object of awareness and understanding. So we learn about all the realities that may be arising at a given moment, but that's not because we expect that they will appear and be the object of awareness and understanding at some point in time. The realities that will be the object of awareness and understanding depend on the accumulated tendencies and understanding of the individual, and the information, the description of reality that is heard from time to time. And of course, it's useful to hear about all different kinds of realities, but not with the expectation that they'll become directly known.
And it's useful, I think, to hear about the realities that probably what you just said will never appear, in that I think it's helpful in getting closer to the understanding of no self and the conditions that I can't remember the name of the condition, but it's the one, the falling away of one reality leads to the immediate arising of another. Anantara. And then there's another one, Samanantara. Yes. Because that some understanding of that intellectual level is of assistance in understanding at an intellectual level, again, no self. The Anantara and Samanantara conditions follow along, like there's nothing anybody can do to A, make anything appear, and B, to I'm sorry, I just lost the thought.
So the condition you mentioned applies to the jittas in the stream of jittas consciousness. It doesn't apply, for example, to the object of seeing and
Correct.
the sense to objects.
Correct.
Just applies to, as I understand it, to the stream of
Yeah.
jittas.
The witty jittas succeeded by Bhavanga and the like. Yes, doesn't apply to the object, the sense objects. It doesn't
To me,
apply to.
it can be more simply understood by saying there can only be one moment of consciousness at a time.
Yes, that's true. That is right. But
Thinking about that one moment of consciousness has to have fallen away before the next moment can arise. I mean, it's so instantaneous and never going to be perceived,
correct.
probably, or if ever, only at a very advanced level of understanding.
I understand what you're saying. I think, yeah, for sure. But I can see that it's useful to know that there are things appearing. Okay, there are things arising. I'm going to say not appearing because they can't be they unknowingly. I don't know. I find it a helpful idea, I guess, at an intellectual level. Whether it has any effect on letting go, I don't know.
Well, you may find it useful to know the Pali terms for the different conditions, for example, or realities, but it can all be understood without too much detail.
That's true. That's true. And I actually, yeah, I was going to say I sense no attachment to these names. Can't even tell you what the conditions are. I just know that they're there. But yeah, it's not essential, but it's useful in the intellectual pondering.
For example, for understanding visible object or sound that are appearing at the present moment.
Not essential.
Not essential. Doesn't.
Not at all.
I know there are other questions in the room, but I'd just like to invite anyone at home to bring up any question or any comment related to anything we've been discussing so far. So if anyone would like to add anything or ask anything, please do. Go ahead, Nina.
I listened to a recording a few weeks ago that Sarah just heard and Jonathan just heard he could not come to Bangkok because of medical issues. Well, and I was so touched by Sarah's reaction because she said, no matter what the circumstances, they are always seeing, hearing, and thinking arise and gone instantly. And it can be an occasion for cheerfulness, even happy feeling that the Dhamma is teaching this, because Dhamma is always the best medicine, no matter what the circumstances. So I found this such an excellent reminder. I was really touched by it.
Of course, the different moments, but I remember Ajahn said to me, oh, you're smiling every day. And because the problem really is in one's thinking. And I had a chat with Anna, one or two friends at lunchtime about this may be relevant for those at home. And you think, oh, perhaps I'm missing out, not being here and not enjoying the lunch discussion together, this sort of thing. But what about the being glad for the others, rejoicing for others that they have the opportunity? So the mudita, the joy in others' good fortune or kusala, makes everything, life go more easily. And if one is sick and one has to cancel the trip or has a problem like Jonathan's, well, that's how it is. That's life. Anything can change. Anything can happen at any moment. Who knows what the seeing will be next or the hearing. So it's such a great blessing to have even a little understanding of the Dhamma, to appreciate that the truth is now at this very moment, no matter how life goes. So thank you, Nina. Maybe Ajahn has more to add, I don't know. Or anyone else?
You know my nature. I'd like to listen very much. So happy to hear the others talking about the truth.
And does anyone else at home have anything they would like to ask? Maeve, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, it's a question, Ajahn, about something you just said a little while ago. And it caught my attention because you said we learn to understand. And that struck me as being rather different to understanding. And it seemed to describe the, I suppose, the situation where there can be a lot of frustration and maybe thinking that, oh, this is so hard to understand, or this is beyond understanding, a whole range of things. But that idea of not immediately understanding at any level, whether it's intellectual or otherwise, but actually learning to understand. I'd really like you to say a little more about that, please. What do you mean when you say we learn to understand?
That is anatta, the understanding of anatta-ness, no matter what we talk about. Just understand what is there now, which is heard and talk about. No expectation for it to appear clearer at all, or even more understanding of what it's now talking about. It is always unexpectedly arising whatever, even right now. But right understanding is not enough to understand what is what from one to the other each moment unexpectedly. So the moment of understanding the nature of our dhammas, understand that actually whatever is there cannot be taken for anything at all. No matter what word about what situation or who we are talking about, or to understand the truth of actually there must be a reality condition to arise from moment to moment. Because nothing like now, it's there, but no understanding, not enough understanding, even of what we are talking about. Learn to understand that we talk about that which is the truth, but how much understanding of it from hearing again and again, unexpectedly, it conditioned moment of different stages of understanding. It has to be so anattanis, unexpected. And that's the only way to understand anatta, no one, or a conditioned, just to arise by conditions. We talk about citta, it's there every moment to have the understanding of a reality which is there, which is always forgotten. So it's time not to forget about it, little by little. There can be attention, even just a moment of seeing, that what is the nature of seeing, or what is seeing. We used to say, it sees, it expresses.
We have lost the sound. It looks like it's frozen. Hello.
Yeah, we experience the same Atita, maybe.
Right, yeah. Yes, it looks very frozen to me.
It's very unexpected.
Thank you, Alan. Good comment.
Who could have predicted what was going to happen just then?
No, certainly not.
I think we've lost them completely, haven't we?
Yeah.
Looks like, yes. Well,
Yeah.
maybe we continue on our own.
I think so, yeah.
So, May, why don't you? Are you getting an answer to your question? Were you getting an answer to your question?
Well, I think my question was about how Ajahn sees the process of learning to understand. And what I heard her saying was that we have to start with the idea of anatta, whether to whatever level it's understood, that has to be, I suppose, the constant. So that whatever we're talking about, whatever we're thinking about, somehow referring back to that is part of how understanding develops. And I've heard her say that before, actually. It's like the premise, if you like, the premise for us studying the Dhamma, to understand what the nature of anatta is.
So my question to you now would be, how do we know it's anatta?
Well,
I mean, we can be told it's anatta, but how can we know that it is?
Exactly. Well, I think that that's the process, Azita. For example, I don't think that we come to know anatta by just saying, oh, it's all no self, or this is no self, or, there's nobody there. I don't think that just repeating that over and over again is sufficient. It may be true, but it's not, I suppose, because it actually requires some direct experience for that truth to be known. And so I think that it's part of the process is by way of understanding the conditionality of all things.
Yes.
It's why we talk in such detail about the Buddhist teachings. That's what the Abhidhamma, the approach is, to analyze and break everything down into its minute components. I think back again.
We'll continue this after, Maeve. Good one.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything of what you've been saying, Maeve.
I don't know whether you managed to hear what Ajahn was saying earlier. We had a few technical problems this end, and then I could see you were talking, but we couldn't hear anything. So please say anything you'd like to say.
Well, it was actually, we decided to talk amongst ourselves. And so Azita asked me what I had understood from what Ajahn had said. So it was a discussion along those lines. I'm not sure whether.
And you just remind us where we were at then, Maeve.
Yes. Well, my understanding of what Ajahn was saying was that we start with the idea of, when in studying the teachings, we start with the idea of anatta, and that is the idea that is returned to again and again, no matter how little understanding there may be around that concept. It's like exploring that in every possible way, through the listening and considering, is part of the learning process. Because what may be thought when we begin to consider the teachings continues to change. I mean, it's always changing by way of what is heard and what is reflected upon, what is experienced, but always returning to that idea.
At lunchtime, one other point we mentioned was that often phrases may be said which can easily be misunderstood as implying a self is involved, like make the effort to understand, or there should be more understanding in daily life. And this is another one, we learn to understand. So easily people may have the idea of studying the words or the terms in order for understanding to rise, with an idea of I doing something. But the point is that the understanding itself has to develop, and what it understands has to be the understanding of Dhamma now as anatta, without any clinging or expecting of what will appear. If we assume it will be visible object or sound, it's not the understanding of just what appears naturally. So whatever the topic, it has to come back to Dhamma as anatta, beyond
Yes,
anyone's
and-
wish or will or expectation.
And it seems that it's very natural to expect that there will be much thinking of the I that is doing that, the I that is trying, the I that is learning, etc., etc. The difference is that by listening and reflecting, it's like there's just little challenges to that idea, little reminders about how, well, hang on, maybe it's not quite like that. But I think I just said to Aziza, I find that just to say over and over, everything is not self, or this, just asserting that the truth of everything is that it is anatta. Anatta is not sufficient to prompt that understanding at a deeper level. It's like a mantra, you know. It cannot actually have the effect to bring about understanding. In fact, it may even dull understanding, because there is not questioning and examining, etc.
Maybe there is just clinging and assuming that one knows what anatta is, but without that's why there has to be the careful consideration about one reality at a time, like what exactly is seeing now, what is attention to the object, because without really considering about the nature of different realities, as you say, it's quite meaningless to just say all are anatta.
And we need to remember also that there are three characteristics of realities that are common to all realities: anicca and dukkha, and as well as anatta. And I suppose the rule against selecting an object also applies to selecting a particular characteristic just as much. So as you say, Maeve, just giving oneself reminders that all dhammas are anatta is not necessarily a condition for more awareness and understanding of that reality. And one needs to keep in mind that whatever appears and however they appear to understanding is how it is naturally by conditions. So characteristic of anicca, characteristic of dukkha, characteristic of anatta, all are to be known as understanding develops naturally.
And would you like to bring up your topic now?
Actually, it's my curiosity about the Intl.Dhamma. It's one of the four factors is a chitta. So it said that chitta is the firmness of chitta. So what does it mean of the firmness of chitta?
Again, please.
It's a one factor of Iddhipada is a chitta. Yes, so it's said that it's firmness of chitta.
Without chitta, can anything be done?
No.
And there are so many degree or many kinds of chitta with right understanding or without right understanding. So when it is chitta without right understanding, can it develop to the degree that it can understand what is there now as it is?
No. Yes. So it's a meaning of the firmness of chitta.
I think that we try to understand the definition of chitta, Intl.Dhamma, but it's a enough understanding of chitta.
Yes.
So we think about theory a lot, adding more and more and more, but not getting close to the nature of chitta. Continue on from this life to other life, the same. But what about understanding that even now, why do we listen? Just to understand the truth of what is there. Even right now, it's not understood. How can there be anything understood? Just the word for thought, wisely or unwisely, depending on panya, which knows. That's why I understand the subtlety of all dhammas. That is so very deep, even it's there now, it's not known. So when will it be known? Otherwise, nothing can be known. That's why we talk about chitta, because no one thought about it. So in order to begin to think about it, in order to understand a little more about it, its nature, its characteristic, and we say that chitta doesn't have shape, form, or color or taste at all. What does it mean? It is a reality, nothing with it. When we talk just about chitta itself, it arises just to experience an object. So no matter when and where and what, it's chitta which experiences the object. And we keep on thinking about other things all the time. So in this life, can there be a moment of thinking about chitta? Otherwise, what is chittanupassana satipatthana? And as long as what is there all the time does not appear to right understanding, how can there be the understanding of what we learned? Because chitta is now so very close, the innermost, it experiences. Nothing experiences the object as chitta. It's a chief of whatever now appears. So the moment when chitta can be object of development of understanding, the question can be, what is there now? The answer is close to the truth. At that moment, nothing. Is it thinking about it or not yet? What is there? Before thinking.
Must be a reality with characteristic.
But it can appear only to right understanding that it's there, a reality, the reality which experiences. Because while one is fast asleep, it does not experience any object of this world. But now it's not moment of sleeping. So there must be chitta experiences the object, which is not known because it's not moment of seeing, or the object of that which arises before seeing. At moment when the object does not appear, but it's there for sure because one is alive, not dead, not die yet. That's why beginning to understand the moment which usually does not appear because seeing seems all the time with hearing and thinking on and on. But the moment when no thought, no sound, no object appearing. It is that. Beginning to attend, to begin to think about it, because we're talking about it, but it does not appear. But it's there, between moment of seeing and hearing. As far as it's not death moment yet, as far as it is not moment of sleeping, it's there. And we think about seeing, try to understand the seeing, the reality which sees, but how to understand it without talking a little more about it, that it's there. At what moment when it can appear, at moment when nothing appears as the object in daily life, like seeing, the sound or the sight. So we begin to understand little by little about the truth of life of each moment, especially now it can be known. The seeing sees, no doubt, but what is the seeing? Begin to attend to the characteristic of that which it seems like we know it already, but in truth, even it's there. Seeing, know one thing about the seeing, but know that it sees and it is citta, the reality which experiences the object, but it's only intellectual understanding. In order to be satipatthana, and without understanding citta, or whatever is there in daily life, it's impossible to eradicate wrong understanding of some or things, something always there. That's why now no one, beginning to consider the truth, beginning to get closer to the truth, little by little, from life to life. What is seen, no Sarah, no Jonathan, as no Mickey Mouse. Again, see. Yes. So no matter when we look at what we say, Mickey Mouse, it's like Kun Sarah, Kun Hang, here and now, the same. No thought about whether it's living being, a mouse, or just a picture or what is seen. That's why understand closer to each moment as it is. Seeing cannot be thinking at all. So at moment of Mickey Mouse, it's not seeing. Very quickly, rapidly changing from seeing to thinking, and the rapidity of the succession of reality arising and falling away, Mickey Mouse is still there seen, and the idea is in between, like now. So understand seeing as it is, and the object which is seen as something only very tiny. When it appears, it cannot be taken for even the hairs at all. But now everything there, but it can be learned to understand the truth. Whatever appears does not appear as it is at all. But there can be the understanding of what is there from talking about it again and again and again.
This is the only way.
The only way, the subtle way, the Eightfold Path, the fourth truth of the Noble Truth.
Yeah.
If we just talk about that which is there without the way to understand it little by little, how can it lead to understand the truth of what is there as it is? Very short moment of what is now appearing. And it can be directly experienced through mind to understand what are there in the day, what is more, the seeing or the mind. See, the world does not appear as it is. The truth does not show up at all. So we live in ignorance, the world of ignorance and madness.
Yes. Thanajan used to say that at seeing that the moment now experiencing visible object through the eye, no one knows except, of course, Buddha knows that it's the eye doors or mind door, because visible object can be experienced through the mind door as well.
That's the point. It's just the characteristic of visible object that appears to understanding. No thought about, is it sense door or is it mind door? No thought about how fast, no thought about the speed of cheetahs arising and falling away. It's just the characteristic which appears at that moment.
Yeah.
And nobody can change the way it is. So when it appears to minder, see, when it appears to minder right now, it is known as it is, as just very tiny object, very fast through minder, because minder can experience everything. The citta can be known only through minder. And the seeing, a citta,
yes,
it's known.
Has
So
to be
the
through
object
mind.
appears through.
Yes.
That's why there can be the firm understanding of the truth, more confidence that even seeing right now has to be object of minder. But so as it is, so very little.
Very short, very fast.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was starting to get off track a bit, associating mind door with brain, but it's actually that the chitta and the cetasika rise at the Hridaya, the heart base, and that is a reference to mind.
The seeing consciousness arises at the eye base, but all the other chittas, even in that sense door process, arise at the heart base. So even the other chittas in the sense door process arise at the heart base. So one cannot say that just because the chittas arise at the heart base, they must be mind or chittas. So the sampatichana, the samtirana, the kusala chittas in the sense door process that follow the seeing all arise at the heart base. All the chittas in the mind door process arise at the heart base. But when we talk about the mind door chittas, we're talking about those chittas which do not experience a sense object. So after the visible object has fallen away, followed by bhavanga chittas, which experience their own object unknown, and then not of this world. And then the mind door chittas can experience any object. It can be the nimitta of visible object of a reality. It can be a concept. It can be any object at all through the mind door. But when those chittas arise, nothing appears through the sense doors at those moments. And what is the brain? Is there a brain?
To Rupa.
Is a Rupa a brain? So we think about a brain, we think about the idea of a brain, looking through the microscope, what is seen, visible object, what is touched. If we put a finger to our head, just hardness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what we think about or imagine, just like Mickey Mouse or people in the room here.
Yes.
Because the chittas themselves, they just arise by their conditions, experience their object through the mind door, and fall away. no person to be found, no body to be found, no brain to be found,
Yes.
no heart as we know it to be found.
Yes. Yes.
Is there any idea I'm not Mickey Mouse? See, idea, but not seeing, not thinking.
Not seeing, not thinking.
Mhm.
Why not thinking?
Because thinking does not appear as thinking. We just say
No.
that it's thinking for sure. Every day. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. It's thinking, but
Doesn't appear. And it's Jita thing, Jita.
what is the difference between moment of thinking about Mickey Mouse and Kunhan?
No difference.
Thinking. And what about that which appears? Exactly the same. The thinking is different, but what is seen is the same. Only that which can be seen.
Okay.
Yes. With Sanya Vipalasa, the same, no matter it's Mickey Mouse or Kunhan.
Or the brain, or the body, or the microphone.
ครับท่านอาจารย์กาโซสัญญาเอาวิปลาสะ all day you see.
And Panya begins to understand the truth.
Yeah. ท่านอาจารย์คะ few days ago we talked about Panya right understanding. Panya can understand everything. Panya can understand the truth. And ท่านอาจารย์ always remind us that listen more, consider more about the truth. Its reality in life in this present moment. So consider more about the nature of the truth right now. So come back to Panya that can know everything and can understand ignorance. But the characteristic of ignorance is ignorance cannot understand cannot know anything. So could you explain more about Panya can understand ignorance?
What is ignorance beginning from this point?
Ignorance, its nature is cannot know the truth right now.
Okay, what is there now?
Is now.
What is there?
What is there?
Now. Ignorance.
Everything there is ignorance is there.
No understanding at that moment.
That's
So
right.
it's ignorance.
Yeah, it's true. Nothing. Everything appear right now. Don't know anything at all. So seeing now.
No, when it does not understand the truth, it cannot understand the truth.
So how can Panya understand it?
Yeah, understand.
Understand, yeah. But ignorant cannot.
At the moment of hearing consciousness, experiencing sound, there's no ignorance, right? Because it's a vipaka-citta, no moha there. But when the kusala and akusala jittas arise in the following the sense door experience, then that's when moha will arise. If it's an akusala, if they are akusala jittas, they'll be accompanied by moha.
So most of the time, moha arises each moment in life.
Well, because most of the jittas, the kusala, the javana jittas are akusala. But those jittas can be object of panya later, at a later moment.
Yeah.
Does moha have a characteristic?
Yes, of course.
So it is the characteristic of moha that
Yeah.
can be understood if and when it appears. So even now, ignorance most of the time, even at these moments listening to Dhamma, but there is a characteristic that gradually understanding can become a little more familiar with, begin to know a little more, even beginning to discuss and consider that there is moha at this moment, because before people may have assumed when it's a Dhamma discussion, no ignorance, that there's just understanding, but most of the time there is ignorance. So even now there is ignorance, and it has a characteristic that gradually there can be a little more understanding of, but not by trying or wishing or pinpointing. And the example Metta gave is another example that can easily be misunderstood. And like when it's Ajahn says, listen more, consider more, it doesn't mean I do something. It doesn't mean I turn on the Zoom for 2 hours to listen more. It means this moment.
Consider more.
Consider a little more at this moment with understanding, but not I considering, not I doing anything.
Yeah, sure.
So this is why whatever we hear is so subtle.
So what is the answer for what is there now?
What is there now? So ignorance is there.
And
Ignorance is there, and attachment.
and
What is the leader with ignorance?
I see.
See,
Is there.
forgotten,
Citta and ignorance is
forgotten.
there.
That's not ignorance.
So that's why Mickey Mouse, even though Mickey Mouse, all citta is there and ignorance is there. So moment of the, once I asked Thanajan a long time ago, Thanajan said, moment of understand this moment, ignorant, little by little, let go, right? Understand this moment, let go, ignorant and attachment, and also wrong view, wrong understand that take reality for self, little by little.
For that moment, at that moment of understanding,
At
and
that
then
moment,
ignorance again and again, but very gradually, as the understanding develops, a little less ignorance, a little less, but we're talking about lifetimes. Aeons.
So, until then, it's long time, because the reality is very subtle to understand. It's hard to understand. So little by little understand the truth.
And if there's any minding or any expecting or any wishing, then it's not understanding.
It's self there. Try to
clinging with
and
ignorance
wish to
again.
The more you expect, the more the understanding just slow down, further away, further away.
Yeah, that's right.
To everyone at home, we'll see you tomorrow, 2 sessions tomorrow morning and afternoon. So join us for more lively discussion. Last chance.
Thank you, Ajahn.